Hey guys, welcome back to Magic TV. My name's Craig. It is 9 o'clock on a Monday, which means it's time for a 5x5. Now, this is where I take 5 subjects related to magic. I spend 5 minutes talking about each subject. I move on to the next subject. It's always quick. It's always snappy. You never know what you're going to get. Well, today, I'm going to be talking to you about Magicians Only. That's right. I'm going to be talking to you about the Facebook group, Magicians Only. Now, there's a million different Facebook groups. There's a million different forums, and all of them have their pros and all of them have their cons. Some of them are great. Some of them are not so great, and you know that they're all designed for the same purpose, which is for magicians to communicate online and discuss magic. You know, and I remember back in the day, you had the Magic Bunny forums, and you know, magic cafes obviously been around for ages. There were the Talk Magic forums, loads of different places that people can go and chat, and there still are. I mean, Discord is very, very popular these days, as are a lot of Facebook groups. I quite like Magicians Only. I sometimes get into arguments in there. I try not to, and I don't go in there as much as I'd like to because I'm really busy. But I do tend to find there's some stimulating discussions that take place in there. And I thought, you know what, I'll do something today. I'll do something a little bit different. I'm always trying to do different stuff on the channel. So I went into Magicians Only this morning, and I had a look through the latest posts, and I looked through 5 posts, because some of them aren't that interesting. Well, I say they're not that interesting. Some of them are just people putting videos up, and the videos are great, don't get me wrong, but it's not really something I can talk about on Magic TV. So I looked for 5 sort of discussion points that people were making in the Magicians Only group, and I thought what I'd do on this 5x5 is take 5 things that people are talking about at the moment on Magicians Only and give you my opinion on them, because that's what people are talking about in the community right now. And I thought this would be kind of a really cool video to do. Let me know what you think if you want me to do another one of these at some point down the line. But I've screen captured everything that's taking place in Magicians Only. I've got my laptop. We're going to go straight into it, and we're going to have a look at 5 things that are taking place at the moment in the magic community that people are talking about on Magicians Only. And if you want to join Magicians Only, it's a Facebook group. You can do so. Just search Magicians Only and click apply or join or whatever it is that you do. And yeah, we're going to get into it. Let's look at the first discussion point. Okay, so the first thing that popped up was by a guy called Larry Henderson, who says, if a client contacts you to perform a show on short notice due to their magician cancelling and then subsequently cancels on you, would you consider requiring a deposit for future bookings? Should this deposit be non-refundable or refundable? I mean, obviously, things change from country to country. That's a great question, though. I mean, to be honest, I don't think it matters whether it's that you've been booked at short notice because of their magician cancelling. And I don't think that matters. I think the question should be if a client cancels on you short notice, which would have happened if this hypothetical situation is that you are, you know, the client's contacting you to perform a show at short notice due to their magician cancelling and then subsequently cancels on you, it's got to be short notice for you as well, right? That just goes without saying. That makes sense. So really, I think it doesn't matter whether they've had another magician who's cancelled or not. That's by the by. The question should be, what happens if somebody cancels? Should you, you know, for future bookings, should you take a deposit? Should you take a refundable or non-refundable deposit? I think that should be the question. I don't know, but I'm willing to bet that the reason they cancelled on you is because their original magician was then able to do it or something, because it'd be weird that somebody cancelled on them, you then become the knight in shining armor and save the day, and then they cancel on you. I would imagine it would be because their magician that they originally booked got made available again, but I don't know. And as I say, it doesn't really matter. From a cancellation point of view, what I do in my company is we take full payment before the events. And we've been doing that ever since we went into business. And I remember, especially with kids' parties, when we started doing that over here in the UK, we were pretty much one of the only people that did that. Everyone else was kind of cash in hand on the day, or, you know, take a deposit and then get cash on the day. And it took a long while for, when we first started implementing this, a lot of clients were like, well, can we pay cash on the day? Because that's what the industry was used to. And we were like, nope, payment has to be made in full, because we didn't want our entertainers to have to deal with picking up cash. That's the reason. because it can delay things and it's not a nice thing to have to worry about. So right from the first get-go, for private clients, i.e. non-corporates or people that don't require an invoice, we require a deposit on booking, or within 7 days of booking, they need to pay a booking fee. And over here in the UK, a booking fee can be non-refundable, but a deposit is refundable. And obviously it's at your discretion. You can refund a booking fee if you want to, but generally as a rule, if it's a booking fee, if it's the fee charged to facilitate the booking, that is non-refundable. A deposit generally is refundable, or at least over here in the UK. So booking, we take a booking fee before the event for both companies. We take a booking fee within 7 days. So within 7 days, they have to pay a booking fee. And then 2 weeks before the event, they have to pay the balance in full, okay? And that's how we do things. And if they are, I can't remember our exact terms and conditions, but if they cancel at any point, there's staggered things. So if they cancel, I think, a week or 2 weeks before the event, they're liable for 100% of the fee. I think it's like 3 or 4 weeks, it's 50% of the fee. I can't remember exactly. Now, there's mitigating circumstances if somebody contacts us and goes, whatever the case may be, it's my husband ended up in hospital or whatever. Obviously, that's, at our discretion. But generally, as a rule, we want people to understand that when we take a booking, the payment is due 2 weeks beforehand. It's just as simple as that. And that's what we've always done. Now, with invoice customers, we're in the process of just changing how the invoice system works. But at the moment, the invoice is when somebody wants to pay an invoice or wants to pay by invoice, they're a corporate client or something, they have to pay within a month of the event. So they have to pay upfront beforehand, a month or 2 weeks before the event. And you know what? We've lost a couple of clients. We've lost a couple of clients that say, oh, we only pay after the event. We only pay our invoices after the event. Well, every time we've had people that we've agreed to pay afterwards, it's been a nightmare getting the money off them. It's been an absolute nightmare, and it's normally really big companies. And about 3 or 4 years ago, we made the decision to say, nope, if you want to have a booking with us, it has to be paid in full beforehand. You have the finance department to be able to do that. Please do that. We've never had a problem. We've never had a problem. We don't take deposits on invoices, although, as I said, the system's changing at the moment, and we are starting to implement a process where we're going to have 50% of the invoice up front. So on booking, within 7 days, they're going to have 50% of the invoice. And then the remaining 50% is going to be paid 2 to 4 weeks before the event. The only time that changes is if it's a very regular client. Like we've got clients that book us 400 or 500 times a year, and then we'll extend them different credit terms because, they've got a track record with us. We know they're going to pay. But for most clients, most corporates, that's not how it works. They're going to be paying beforehand. And I think that's really important. I think this comes back to running your business like a business. And I think it's really important to run your business like a business. And there's so many magicians that go out there and do cash in hand jobs. And, I'm going to do cash in hand and I'm going to pick up cash on the day. And, my attitude is, should a deposit be refundable or non-refundable? Well, there you go. You need to start, in my opinion, and the question was, if they cancel on you, would you consider requiring a deposit for future bookings? I'm going to require a booking fee or a deposit for future bookings, regardless of whether they've cancelled on me or not. That's just how business works. That's how most businesses do business. And it's time for the entertainment industry to catch up to that. So there you go. That's my opinion on that. And it's a great question in Magicians Only by Larry Henderson. Okay, so there's a few people that have posted in Magicians Only about this same subject. And there's a few people. And Jason Madsen is the person who I've got here. But there's a lot of other people that have posted about the exact same thing, which is an interesting topic. So Jason says, just finished watching Oz Perlman on Joe Rogan, which you should go and watch if you can. I've been thinking about how mentalists present themselves on long-form podcasts like Rogan, and I'm a bit conflicted. When Banachek and Oz were on, they leaned heavily into the idea that they were using advanced psychological techniques, like reading micro-expressions or manipulating Joe's choices through suggestion. And Joe, to his credit, seemed genuinely interested, asked thoughtful questions to understand how it all works. But here's the thing, they weren't being honest. They were doing magic tricks, sleight of hand, scripted routines, and framing them as real psychological manipulation. I get it that in a stage setting, magicians need a premise or a hook for their abilities, but on a podcast where the host is earnestly trying to explore the science behind influence and persuasion, that feels off. It crosses the line from performance into deception. There's nothing wrong with saying I use the techniques of a magician to create the illusion of mind reading, and then have a real conversation from there. You don't have to stay in character or start name dropping NLP as if it's a real superpower. That said, I also get that mentalists are in a tough spot. Do you break character and risk killing the mystique? Or do you keep up the act for 3 hours and hope no one digs too deep? It's a tricky ethical grey area, and I'm still not sure where I lie on it. Curious what everybody else thinks on this issue. Brilliant question. Absolutely brilliant question. Wonderful question. And it's something that I'm not too sure of the answer on myself. You know, as an industry, magicians tend to frown on psychics. That will pretend that they have psychic powers whilst really using a combination of pre-show and, you know, cold and warm reading. That we frown on those psychics that will prey on the vulnerable and make people believe that they can speak to their dead relatives in order to, you know, extract money out of them. You know, you see people like this all the time, and they make me sick. And as a community, we generally look down on people like that, and deservedly so. You know, they don't have real psychic powers. They can't speak to the dead. They haven't got your dead uncle speaking to you. But by making people believe that that's the case, and giving people, you know, false hope in return for money, it's not a nice situation at all. And the thing is, what we have with psychics, we have people that are using magical methods and magical techniques in order to give the impression that they are indeed psychic. Now, mentalists, and I've talked about this on the channel before, I've talked about how magicians, you know, generally, when you're a magician, when you are billed as a magician, you generally tend to find that you're not trying to get people to believe that what you're doing is real. What I mean by that is, you know, if you're going out there and you're making little balls disappear and appear in someone's hands, you're making coins jump from one place to another, and you're floating things up in the air, you know, you're not going to make people believe that they're real. People are smart these days, you know, the majority of people. You might get the odd person thinking you sacrificed a goat before you popped into the gig, but generally as a rule, people realize that you're there to entertain them. Now, mentalists tend to go more for the whole. Well, back in the day, mentalists used to try and pretend that what they were doing is real. I can really read your mind. And then since Darren Brown came on the scene, a lot of people have copied Darren Brown's approach to things, which is I use a combination of psychology and NLP and deception to give the impression of mind reading. And a lot of people say that, which is, I think, relatively true. You know, you're not saying that you are a mind reader. You're not saying you can read minds. You're saying that you are, you know, using skill to make it look like you are. And there's nothing wrong with that. And ultimately, at the end of the day, you choose how you want to portray yourself to your audience. And I suppose it very much depends on the audience at hand. The grey area here is people that tend to go down the influence route. Now, I, as a magician, have tricks where I use as a hook line, I'm going to try and influence you in a very kind of tongue-in-cheek way, you know. But there are mentalists out there that will really try to make you believe that what they are doing is real, i.e. they will say that I am like a human lie detector. I can make you believe that what I'm doing is real. Matt is a perfect example. So, you know, if you've seen Matt do Imposter by John Morton, sorry, John. If you see Matt do The Imposter by John Morton, he actually goes and gives people the impression that he can read them and what they're saying. He can pick up on, and he can use that skill to work out whether people are lying or telling the truth. I've even heard Matt, talk about how he's been hired by the police to sit in and, try and study people to give insight into the police or something. And Matt does that an awful lot with a lot of his presentations, and he'll do that with the dice thing, and he'll be like, hey, okay, I'm going to try and lie to you, and he'll be getting other people to look in their eyes and say, look, do you see she looked to the left, and how she looked to the left, which is obviously crap. We all know that, right? He's using an electronic die, but he's giving people the impression. Now, I think the big difference is anybody who does that, any mentalists that do that, people like Matt and people like Oz Perlman, they're not doing it to prey on the innocent. They're not doing it to fleece people out their money. They're not trying to be a psychic or anything. That's the hook that they're using in order to try and make their presentation more interesting. And give people, and I've been at gigs with Matt, and I've watched Matt take this approach in close-up, and I've seen him do this, and people are absolutely fascinated. They're hanging off his every word. So from a presentational point of view, it absolutely makes sense. It really does. It absolutely makes sense to kind of go down that route, because people find that fascinating. It's why there's so many shows on TV, like The Mentalist and things like that, where you've got this person who just has an uncanny ability to work out whether people are lying or telling the truth. So as a performer, going in and using that same approach is going to be interesting to an audience, which it is. It is interesting to an audience. So I understand 100% why people would do that. I've spoken to Matt about this in the past, and I don't think they're doing it in any harmful way. Now, what Jason is saying here is he's saying, Oz Perlman was on Rogan, and he was, he's saying here they weren't being honest. They were doing magic tricks, sleight of hand, scripted routines, and framing them as real psychological manipulation. On a podcast where a host is earnestly trying to explore the science behind influence and persuasion, that feels often crosses a line. I don't know. It's kind of a bit of a grey area. At the end of the day, what do you expect Oz Perlman to do? Because if you ask, so if his whole thing is that he is an expert in deception, is expert at reading people, is an expert at psychological persuasion and influence and so on and so forth, but obviously we know he's a magician, right? He's an entertainer. He has a career. If he's offered a spot on something like Rogan, he's not going to turn around and say no, because that's good publicity. But then when he gets onto the program, he can't really break character. When Rogan starts talking about psychological influence, and he goes, well, actually, I'm using an electronic die, or actually I'm using a billet peak, or actually I'm using a center tear, or whatever the case may be, that suddenly then that's going to affect his career, because there are going to be companies that book him because he is the person he is saying that he is. But, if that's bad, we turn around and we say we're magicians. We do magic. Now, again, it's subjective because we are doing magic, but, that what's a person's definition of magic, right? It's like John Vanderput. He's not really a dragon at all. He walks around in dragon suit. He's not really a dragon. But, his character is that. So it's a very difficult grey area. I don't know that he's done anything wrong, really, per se. I think he's in a situation where he's damned if he does and he's damned if he doesn't. Because if he went onto Rogan, and again, he's not going to turn down something like Rogan because it's a good opportunity for him. If he went on somewhere like Rogan and he went, well, actually, it's all rubbish. I don't really do any of this. I do magic tricks. I'm a magician. I used to work for Penguin Magic. I have all of these tricks that I've bought, and I present them in a way that makes it look like I do this. I imagine a big percentage of the magic community would come down on him like a ton of bricks. They would. Well, he's damned if he does. He damns if he doesn't. If he went down that route, he would. I know for a fact he'd get mentalists turn around and go, "Oh, you can't say that. Oh, you're giving it away." But now he's got people coming down on him saying, "Well, don't pretend that you're doing this. That's not the right thing to do. You can't do this." And he's not going to turn down, realistically, would any professional magician turn down something that's going to really help, improve your brand and get more people to see who you are? Probably not. So it's a difficult situation to think about. It's a difficult situation to be in. But I understand. I think he's done the right thing, personally. I think he's done the right thing. I think he's stayed in character. And I think he's carried on. And, his performance and the way he carried himself off on Rogan was brilliant. I haven't watched the whole thing, but I've watched edited highlights. And, yeah, I was super impressed. So I understand where you're coming from, Jason, but really I don't think there's too much of an issue there. Okay, so this is one that I wasn't going to include this one because I was going to do a separate video on it, but I think this is the right time to include it. So Sean Boone has commented on, or posted on Magicians Only, say, I never thought I'd be doing this for my best mate. And he has sent a link to a Just Giving crowdfunding page. And what he's done, let me see if I can find it. I've got so many notes here, it's ridiculous, right? There it is. Is that it? No. Bear with. There we go. Okay. So he says, I'm raising funds for my best mate, Rob Harper. He's just been diagnosed with a brain tumour. His occupation involves driving, and with this diagnosis and subsequent treatment, he won't be able to drive for a while. Let's help with loss of earnings, fees he could incur for travel, and to make him as comfortable and feel as loved as he deserves to be. Rob also has Crohn's and has battled hard to fight against the weight his medication caused him to gain, and he's lost 6 stone. He's looking after himself, and a curveball like this is unfair. Rob is a unique friend to me. We're both semi-professional magicians. I met Rob through chance or fate and maintain that he is the best 30 quid I ever spent. He was selling a magic prop about 10 years ago. Oh, there you go. He was selling a magic prop about 10 years ago that I wanted, so I made arrangements to meet at the Magic Circle. We had an amazing evening and we stayed in touch ever since. We're not local to each other, but speak every day and meet up where possible. He's well loved by the magic community and deserves to feel that. So I've got 2 pages here. There you go. Deserves to feel that. Please give what you can, and hopefully his recovery is fast and comfortable for him. I'm raising £1,000 for health medical causes. Thanks for taking time to visit my Just Giving page. So I know Rob Harper. I know Rob very well. Rob is one of the nicest people you will ever meet. First of all, he's an incredible magician. He's a really nice guy. He ran for council on the Magic Circle a couple of years ago. He really loves magic. That's important for you guys to know. He loves magic and he is very good at it. But here's the most important thing from my point of view. Rob genuinely likes to help as many people as possible. When the atomic deck stuff was going on and I felt really shit, and honestly, I felt really bad. The first person to ring me up on my phone and call me was Rob Harper. He was the first person to call me up and say, hey, are you okay? What's going on? Is there anything I can do? He had no reason to ring me up. It's not like we see each other all of the time. But, he did that, and it was fantastic that he did. He is a super nice guy. I am going to be giving, and I encourage everyone else to as well. Because Rob genuinely is one of the good guys, and he's not a big name in the magic community insofar that, a lot of you might not know who he is, but he's had an impact on a lot of people, and he is exactly the type of person that you want representing magic. He is a good guy, and he loves magic, and he's a really nice person. So if you're watching this, Rob, I'm thinking of you, buddy, and anyone else, I really would like you to give if you can. That would be amazing. Okay, so the next one is kind of an interesting topic, and it was posted by Cosmo Solano, who has released a lot of magic in the magic community over the years. And Cosmo says, hey everyone, serious question, although it's going to sound like I might be kidding or being facetious. Are we now as a community accepting people just stealing other people's ideas and putting them on the market? Did I miss something here, or is it now open season on each other? Henry Harrius and Alex Ning have released a product that is a direct knockoff of my product called Quantum Connection, also known as Q. Q is still on the market and it's still for sale, and I still sell it, and they have the exact duplicate of it included with a new trick they've released. Am I dreaming? Is this a joke? I thought Henry Harrius was a respectable guy and ran a respectable company. I'm currently awaiting a response from both of these guys. So, okay. So I just so you know, there's 150 comments on this post, and I have not read all one. I've skimmed the comments at best, but there's 150 comments on this post, and this is kind of an interesting thing, very, very interesting. In fact, I'll let me get up the thing. There we go. So it's very interesting. It's a very interesting topic. And I have a few thoughts on it. So first of all, I don't really know Cosmo's work that much. I don't really know much about what he does, to be perfectly honest. I have, however, looked into the Q that he's talking about, the Q, and it appears to be an index, and the index is, as far as I can see, not available anymore, or if it is, I can't find it. And somebody in the comments did ask for a link to a link to where he could buy it from or look at the product, and Cosmo was like, well, I have a link, but I'm not going to give it you because I'm going to be re-releasing it at some point in the future, which suggests to me it's not readily available, which is fine. That's not a problem because it is still first to market. What confuses me about this one is this is so the trick in question that's just come out is a tennis ball thing. It's called, I can't remember the name of it. I've actually got it for review. And it's a tennis ball thing, right? So the whole idea is, the effect is that you throw a tennis ball out and different people are making different choices. And then the last person who catches it brings it up on stage. And, they've between them created a card. The card, for example, is the 3 of clubs. You then take the tennis ball off them, and you realize that it's actually a tennis ball that opens, hinges open, and then when there's a card sticking out of the inside of it, and when they take the card out, it is indeed the 3 of clubs. That's the trick. That's effectively what it is. So it's a freely named card. There's a lot of different ways of doing this. Daniel Garcia, for example, has just brought out one card. Now, with one card, you've got an index, a folded up card index, a little bit like this. You've got a folded up card index, but what Danny's done is Danny's shortened the range. So there's only 12 cards or so inside the index, so the range is shortened. Whilst with the product that Henry is selling and Alex is selling, it's an index of 52 cards. And as far as I can see, Cosmo's saying that they ripped them off, but for me, and maybe I'm just wrong here, but the main effect is that the card is going into the tennis ball. And it's this tennis ball that looks very legitimate, that people are throwing around, that you can actually have a spectator hold and feel. And I know, as I say, I've got one. It looks incredible. You wouldn't think it could open up. But then you've got this moment when you open up and you've got the card in there. So that, for me, is the effect. The packaging is all about the tennis ball. But I think Cosmo's got an issue with... Cosmo's got an issue with... There you go. Cosmo's saying, are we now as a community accepting people just stealing other people's ideas and putting them on the market? Did I miss something, or is it now open season on each other? He must be talking about the index. Now, I've admittedly never seen his index at all in any way, shape or form, but indexes have been around for a long time. Like, folded up card indexes have been the solution to a lot of tricks over the years. Like I say, Danny Garcia has just brought out one card with an index. When Switch 1 came out, Vanishing Ink put with it an index that held folded up cards, that held half a deck of folded up cards. I think it was half a deck, I think it was 26 cards. But then they hypothesized that you could have 2 indexes and you could cover the whole deck. Instagram had an index of folded up cards. Blake Voigt has routines where there's an index of folded up cards. Now, they're gimmick to be able to show multiple cards, but indexes have been around for a very, very, very long time. So I'm not too sure. He's got see the problem. Here's the issue. Like I understand exactly what Cosmo's talking about, but here's the issue. He seems to be going like my. I haven't got a problem here. I'm just addressing the thing. But my thoughts on this is that I think Cosmo's going about this the wrong way, insofar that he actually says in his post, he's tagging Henry Harris in, he's tagging Alex in, and he said, "I'm currently awaiting responses from both of these guys." I think it would have been best if you'd actually awaited the response before going full on name and shaming on Facebook groups. I think, especially as the main part of the trick is something completely different to what you did. For me, the big innovation with Alex's trick is the tennis ball, not the index. Indexes have been around forever. Now, like I say, I don't know how similar the index is that you've got. Have you even, like, my question is, has Cosmo seen the index? Like, because he's very, very clear that these guys are stealing his work and that it's still in the market, still for sale, still have an exact duplicate of what's. But like I said, there's other folded up card indexes that have been around before. I didn't see Cosmo going off on Christian Grace about that index. I didn't see Cosmo going off on somebody else about the index. I've never seen that. So, like, has Cosmo seen this index? Has he seen the product? Has he seen the tutorial? Does he know whether it's credited or not? Like, is he saying that, because based, as I say, I haven't read all the comments, but based on this initial post, he's saying that he's been stolen from. But other people have bought out indexes. So what is he wanting? Is he wanting it pulled from market? Or is he just wanting a credit? If he only wants a credit, then he's kind of trying to take out a fly with a shotgun here. Because if you're just wanting a credit, going online and making a post tagging the people in and basically calling them thieves before they've had the chance to reply to you. So I'll give you an example. I've got a trick coming out. And shortly before filming the tutorial, I realized, it came to my attention, that there was something similar to that product that had been bought out before. Now, we'd done our crediting, we'd done our credit section and everything, and we'd included extensive credits, but we hadn't included anything about this trick because we didn't know about it. Now, the trick was different in terms of the effect, and what we were doing with this prop was completely different to what the original trick was. But still, the fact is there were similarities between these tricks. So I went out and I immediately contacted the original creator, and I was like, "Look, this is the situation. This is what we've got. This is what it does. What can we do about this?" And we went back and forth for a while, and we came up with a solution. We came up with a way that we can progress forward that all parties were happy with. And nobody will ever know because it was kept offline. Because I contacted the person behind the scenes, I waited for them to reply to me, and then we had a conversation without having to drag people's names through the mud on Facebook. Surely that's the right way to do things, right? If you've got an issue with something, contact the person. Like, I've just bought out Credit Swipe. And obviously there's a few things that inspired it, including Printing by Dominic Duvivier and a few other things, but you can see the similarities to Presto Printo. And I reached out and I got the permission from Murphy's, who are the holders of Daryl's estate, before I got that trick released. I don't think it's right dragging. I'll give you another perfect example, and this is exactly a perfect example. Right, so Henry Harris bought out last year or the year before a trick called Key Maestro, which is 2 keys, and the whole jumps from one key to another key held by the spectator. And maestro is another word for master. And Key Maestro came out, and it was very, 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 very similar to Keymaster. And there were some differences. in that Henry used the half-whole principle, which I used in the second version of Keymaster that I bought out decades ago. But there were some innovations, and it was obviously Henry's handling. But in my opinion, it was a bit too similar to Keymaster. Now, I spoke to Penguin, and then after speaking to Penguin, I spoke to Henry. And you know what? We were able to sort everything out. Everything was sorted out. And you know what? There was no, even though everything was sorted out, and even though a trick came out that was similar to my trick in many, 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 many ways, it was all sorted out behind the scenes, and everybody was happy, and it never went on the internet once. Never posted about anything or spoke about anything, because that didn't need to be done. Now, people in the comments are going to go, yeah, but EDC, you know, you went to war with Michael Weber and Tim Trono, and I did. But it took a long time. When I made my video about EDC and about Michael Weber, I did that video after spending a month going back and forth between Murphy's and Michael Weber, pointing out that why, in my opinion, they were wrong. And it got to a point where I made a video and I made it public after about a month, when Michael Weber sent me a message via Murphy's saying, my advice to Craig is that he does the right thing and pulls the product, else we'll probably end up with another red situation on our hands, and we wouldn't like that now, would we? And I'm sorry, I'm not going to take a direct threat from somebody. I'm not going to have somebody threaten me. That's, where I come from. When you make a threat like that, you better back it the fuck up. And, that's when everything went public. But what I didn't do is make it public initially when the whole thing kicked off. Absolutely not. But here we have Cosmo going, and he's obviously reached out to Henry and Alex, because he said, I'm waiting a response. Rather than waiting for the response, he's now naming and shaming on Facebook groups, tagging them in and calling them thieves. Are we as a community accepting people just stealing other people's ideas and putting them on the market over an index when other people have bought out indexes as well? And the comments later on, as I say, I haven't read all of the comments. There's a guy very funny saying, isn't that what Craig Petty does? And everyone calls him a Craig Magic creator. Perfect. Cheers, mate. Yeah. I think that innovation is important. I think that if we're never allowed to take something that's come out before and we're not allowed to improve on it or make it better, I think that's an issue. I really do. So yeah, 100%. I think that innovation is important. And I think that this particular trick is incredible. I'm going to be reviewing it soon, but I love it. It's a tennis ball. You can throw it around, people can handle it and hold it. And when they open it up themselves, the card's in there that they merely thought of. I mean, that's insanely good. Heck, Henry, it's not the first time Henry bought out an index. He bought out the Magic One thing a little while ago with another index. No one kicked up a fuss about that. Folded up card indexes have been around for a long time. Now, Henry's a nice guy. I know Henry's a nice guy, so I'm sure he's going to take what Cosmo says seriously, as he should, because Cosmo's obviously upset. But when it comes to laying ownership of an index and saying, well, you can't release an index because it's my intellectual property, I personally, maybe my moral compass is skewed, but I can't see a problem with that, as long as it's not just, here's an index, it's exactly the same as this person's, and by the way, here's the same routines. If it's being used in the context of a completely different magic trick, I think that's fine. Now, should there be, I don't know how similar these indexes are. Should there be a conversation? Perhaps, but it's very easy to miss products that have come out in the past. I've been in this industry a long time. I've never heard of the Q index. Should there be a credit? Yeah. But unless you're saying that Henry and Alex are complete and total thieves, my opinion is, calling them out like this on the channel, I don't think that's a good look. I really, not on the channel, calling them out on Facebook and tagging them in and basically saying they're liars. Personally, I don't think that's a good look. Okay, so the final thing I want to talk about on Magicians Only is, ironically, concerning my son, Ryland, the kid magician, who, by the way, I've had this in the past. I've had people in the past that say, oh, Ryland doesn't post on social media himself. Yes, he does. He's almost 13 years old, right? He spends a lot of time on YouTube and social media. And for anybody who thinks that an almost 13-year-old doesn't post on Facebook or doesn't post on Instagram or doesn't have anything to do with social media himself, you obviously don't have kids. Anytime Ryland is posting on Facebook, he's doing it as himself. The reason just so you guys know, he posts practice videos on Magicians Only all the time. And the reason he does is because he's looking for genuine feedback. He wants advice and feedback, especially as a lot of the magic he likes doing, I don't do. I couldn't float a dancing cane to save my life. And never will, So he looks for people's advice, and he's very good at taking advice on board. And if you don't believe me, and this is about a post he made recently, where he posted a performance video of him doing the dancing cane in the car park outside my office, and wanting some advice on it. And if you look back a couple of years and you look at the videos that he posted of him doing his dancing cane routine a couple of years ago, you can see how incredible the technique has got between then and now. And that's because a lot of the advice that has been posted on places like Magicians Only, when he has sought advice, he was doing it with one hand and his technique wasn't as good as it is now. His technique's very good now. And it gets better and better. So he posted a video of himself doing the dancing cane. In fact, I'm just going to quickly show you the video, okay? Just so you can see what I'm talking about. So this is the video that he posted on Magicians Only. So he's been working on that now for probably the best part. He's been working on the dancing cane since he was about 6, 7. But he's been working on that particular sequence for about 6 months to a year. I don't know exactly. He does a lot of practice on his own, and a lot of rehearsal on his own. And the video, so he posted the video, actually. So he posted the video and he wanted some advice, and he got some great advice. There's some fantastic advice. And if you're watching this video and you gave him some advice, I really appreciate it. He had people saying that He should smile more, which, dear Lord, is something I tell him all the time. He's taking acting lessons. I don't think he should be the goofy smile, but I think he needs to show emotion more. I have to remind myself that he's just 12 years old, but I completely agree with that. And I had people, there were people that said, hey, you should slow it, you should do a shorter sequence, which I don't know if I necessarily agree with, but I can see exactly where people are coming from. And I know he's, taking that on board as well, and looking at music and so on and so forth. But what's kind of weird to me is, and I'm not just talking about magicians only here, because he actually posted this on his own Facebook page as well. And it's got about 750,000 views now. His stuff tends to do quite well. And he, there's magicians that have posted just quite negatively. There's a lot of supportive comments, and those guys are great, because magic, the kids in magic are the future in this industry, as far as I'm concerned. And, there's some magicians that, and I've seen it happen quite a lot, when a kid will post, or even somebody in general will post, a lot of magicians will use it as their opportunity to show how clever they are. And they'll go, oh, your technique is terrible. It's not very good at all. You have people saying, well, get a better backdrop, take pride in your performance, do it in a better location. Or, is that what you're planning on wearing when you perform the trick? Are you kidding? Improve your outfit. Or even if they're offering good advice, like the smiling more, they say it in a really negative way, in a really, really negative way. There's a guy that posted on Facebook, and he said, on Magicians, I think it was Magicians Only, saying, your technique sucks, you're the worst magician I've ever seen, just give it up, nothing will save you, not even good music. And it's it's incredible. So first of all, where that was shot, I was rehearsing with Thomas Maloney and his daughter Madison. I was teaching her illusions and him how to do an illusion show, because he's going to be doing some of the slightly unusual illusion shows. And Rylan was there because he was rehearsing. He's got an illusion show he's putting together with his sister called Magic and Mischief, and he was rehearsing there. And his Thomas's daughter Maddie wanted to learn the dancing cane, and so he said, "I'll quickly show you." So we had the speaker on in the car park outside the front of the office, and he just put his track on and he just did it, and then sent it to Maddie, so Maddie could learn how to do dancing cane. It wasn't like a full serious performance or anything like that. He literally just did it off the cuff. And then he was like, I'm going to post it on Magicians Only. Maybe I can get some help and get some advice. And he posted it on his Facebook page as well, and so on and so forth. And so, he rehearses an awful lot, but they're not full dress rehearsals. And a lot of the time, we rehearse outside of my warehouse, outside my offices and my warehouse, because we've got a giant car park, and it's a great place to get the illusions out. We open up the shutter, we get the illusions out, we have them all there, and it's a great place to do all of that. Some of the comments, man, I just can't believe how negative, and especially on the Facebook page, there's people that are just like, I'm a magician and this kid is retarded. They actually say that. And some of the horrible comments that magicians make, and I look at their profiles, and they are magicians, and the magician, you see magicians on. So he posts this on his public Facebook page because it's a really good video. It's a really good video. So he puts it on his Facebook page. He posts it, and there's lay people going, "Oh my God!" This now, obviously, when you post stuff on Facebook, you're going to get good comments. You're going to get bad comments. That's by the by, especially when you've got a profile like Ryland. But you've got lay people going on there, going, "Oh, what Harry Potter stuff is this? Oh my gosh, that's amazing! Oh, he must have reversed the video." The standard lay people stuff. And then you've got magicians on there going, "Oh, okay, so." If I were you, I would hold the thread in this hand, and I would try to switch the thread from one hand to another. And then what I'd do is I'd do this and I'd do that. And I'm like, okay, maybe that's good advice, but not on a public Facebook page. And then you've got magicians going on there and going, I've been a magician for 30 years and you need to give it up, and you need to give up, kid. He's 12 years old. He's 12 years old. I don't think there's many magicians. If I went to a magic convention, I'm going to a lecture tonight. I'm lecturing in Manchester tonight. I'm looking forward to it. I'm willing to bet if I took Ryland's dancing cane and I asked every single person there to show me a dancing cane routine, I bet there'd be one at the most that would be able to even pick up the prop and be able to use it. Most magicians haven't, and me included, I couldn't do it. Not in a million years, right? The amount of time and effort he's put into doing that. But that's by the by. If you think it's crap, that's fine. If you see a video and you think it's not a very good video, message him. And he looks at his messages. He doesn't reply to all of them, but he looks at his messages and he takes things on board. And you can see that from where the cane routine was 2 years ago and where it is now. But to put public comments on Facebook as a magician, to comment on Facebook on somebody's, public profile and talk about thread and talk about dancing canes and talking about, so one magician even sent a link, even put a link in the fucking video to a tutorial on the dancing cane. And it wasn't as bad on Magicians Only, but still, I personally think that we should be encouraging kids. And this isn't just about Ryland. Ella Henderson just posted a credit card trick in Magicians Only. It's phenomenal. I'm a big fan of her. I'm a big fan of... look, I think that the future of magic is going to be amazing. I really do. But I think we need to build them up, not put them down. When I first got into magic, I was 18 years old. I was only a year older than Jess, who's now doing the Jessomentary. And, there was a magician called Ulysses who took me under his wings, and he was very, very supportive. And he made me believe that I could do this, and he really helped me. And it was that guy that I think if I hadn't have had that, I don't think I'd be doing this now. I really don't. And I think that, if you're an experienced magician, I think you have a duty of care that if you want to give advice, that's great, but learn how to do it the right way. I'm not saying don't give advice, right? The reason Ryland posts those videos in places like Magicians Only is because he wants advice on his routines. And he's been surrounded by magicians his entire life that are giving him better advice, whether it's be Nemid Phoenix or me or Russ Stevens or Russ Brown or Alex Jessen from Matrix or Danny Hunt from Amethyst. The list goes on and on and on. So many people have helped him. And he's very lucky that he's had so many people help him at the age of 12. But, if he was just... And it's because, being my son opens up a few doors, which is great. But it makes me worry about other kids that are coming into magic, finding a place like Magicians Only, posting videos on there. And then there's magicians that are just going in with no bedside manner at all. Yes, give advice, but I think give it in the right way. I think that's really important. So there you go, guys. That's another video in the bag. That's another 5x5. Do me a favor, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Now, you want to see more videos like this, all you got to do is like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below. Now, you want to see another one of these type of videos. I want to know what you think of this. Is this a good idea? Should we do this again? Let me know. Outside of that, I will see you again soon. Don't forget to join the Netrix. It's my online streaming platform for magicians. It's thenetrix.com, and I'll catch you again soon. My name's Craig from Magic TV.